Imagine being Ed Miliband. You spent years in political wilderness after that bacon sandwich incident basically ended your prime ministerial dreams. You reinvented yourself as a climate crusader, the net zero champion, the man who's going to save Britain from environmental catastrophe. You're back in cabinet as energy secretary, finally getting another shot at the big time. And then the head of Unite, one of Labour's biggest unions, the same union that backed you in the 2010 leadership race, goes public saying you're doing such a terrible job that maybe it's time you packed your bags and moved on. Oh, and she's calling your energy policy an absolute disaster zone, while oil refinery collapse and fuel security crumbles. Welcome to UK Secrets, where today we're diving into why Ed Miliband's net zero dream is turning into a political nightmare, and why even his old allies think Keir Starmer should give him the sack. Let's set the stage because the situation is properly grim. The UK has very few oil refineries left, and they are dropping like flies. We're now watching the Prax Lindsay oil refinery, which produces 10% of Britain's petrol. Let me repeat that, 10%, face closure after falling into administration. Almost a third of the workforce, 125 people, are being made redundant by the end of October. These aren't just statistics. These are real workers losing real jobs at a facility that's absolutely critical to Britain's energy security. And this isn't even the first refinery to go down recently. According to Unite Sharon Graham, this is the second oil refinery facing closure in less than a year. 2 refineries gone in 12 months. While Ed Miliband's busy talking about net zero targets and renewable energy transitions. Now here's where it gets spicy. Sharon Graham, the General Secretary of Unite Union, has basically had enough. When asked directly whether it was time for Miliband to go, she didn't dance around the subject. She said, and I quote, "I think that he has not made a good fist of it." That's British understatement at its finest, which in normal language translates to, "He's absolutely botched it." But she didn't stop there. She continued, "I think maybe it is time for him to think that he should move out of this position, because for me, we don't have time. I've got 2 oil refineries shutting now in less than a year." That's not constructive criticism. That's not gentle feedback. That's a trade union boss publicly calling for a cabinet minister to be sacked. And not just any cabinet minister, one they actually backed for party leader 14 years ago. Graham's frustration is absolutely palpable when you read her full comments. She's asking the questions that workers and their families are desperately asking. These people here being told that their jobs are going, yet we know that we need to have fuel in Britain. Where's the money going into this? It's a fair point, isn't it? We're supposedly transitioning to net zero, investing billions in green energy, talking about Britain being a clean energy superpower. But while we're doing all that, the infrastructure that actually keeps the country running right now is crumbling, and nobody seems to have a plan to bridge that gap. It's like deciding to demolish your house before you finish building the new one. Spoiler alert, you end up homeless. Graham then takes aim at whoever's blocking the money, whether it's the Treasury or Miliband himself, saying maybe we need somebody that's more vocal for these jobs. Translation: Ed's either unable or unwilling to fight for these workers, and we need someone with a backbone who'll actually demand the investment these industries need. She wants someone who'll say, "We back Britain, and I'm demanding that we get this money into this area." Instead, she says, it's been an absolute disaster zone. When a union leader who supported you for party leadership is using language like absolute disaster zone to describe your policies, you know you're in serious trouble. But here's the really clever bit of Graham's criticism, and it's a part that should worry Miliband most. She makes it clear she thinks is a very good guy personally. This isn't personal. This is about competence and priorities. And then she delivers a killer line. The difficulty here is he doesn't seem to be grasping that you cannot let go of one rope until you've got hold of another. That's it. That's the entire problem with Labour's energy policy summed up in one perfect sentence. You can't shut down oil refineries and fossil fuel infrastructure before you've got reliable, scalable alternatives in place. It's not radical or controversial. It's basic common sense. But apparently, that common sense is missing from the Department of Energy. Graham continues with a warning that should send chills down the spine of anyone concerned about national security. We are giving up our fuel security. We're allowing refineries to shut, and we're going to be at the behest of other countries in terms of fuel that is totally irresponsible. Think about what she's saying here. Britain, A G7 nation, one of the world's major economies, is voluntarily making itself dependent on other countries for something as fundamental as fuel. In a world where energy is increasingly weaponized, where supply chains are fragile, where geopolitical tensions are rising, we're just casually giving up our energy independence. It's like canceling your home insurance because you're planning to move house eventually. Sure, you might move at some point, but what happens if there's a fire before you do? Now let's talk about the Prax-Lindsay situation specifically because it perfectly illustrates everything wrong with current policy. This refinery produces 10% of the UK's petrol. 10%. That's not a rounding error. That's a massive chunk of our domestic fuel supply. It's in North Killingholme in North Lincolnshire, and it's been run by Prax Group, which collapsed into insolvency back in June. The official receiver took control and has been trying to find a rescue deal ever since. But here we are in October, and instead of a rescue, we're getting redundancies. 125 jobs gone, leaving just 255 workers at the site. The insolvency service is making all the right noises about supporting redundant workers and prioritizing safety, but that doesn't change the fundamental problem. We're losing critical fuel infrastructure, and nobody in government seems to have a plan to stop it or replace it. The union boss also accused Labour of being tin-eared to the plight of workers at the second oil refinery facing closure in less than a year. Tin-eared. That's a devastating criticism for a Labour government that's supposed to be all about workers' rights and just transitions. Being tin-eared means you're not listening. You're not hearing the concerns of the people who will be affected by your policies. You're charging ahead with your grand plans without considering the human cost. And for a Labour government, being accused of that by one of your major union backers is about as bad as it gets. Thanks for watching UK Secrets. If you think Starmer should listen to Unite, or if you back Miliband's approach, drop your thought below and don't forget to subscribe for more political deep dives. See you next time.